Question 81. The financial statement that shows the condition of a business on a specific date is this is the key. When you hear on a specific date, the answer is the balance sheet. The balance sheet shows the financial condition of a business at a single point in time. 82. Positive leverage. When we talk about positive leverage, we are talking about financing. Anytime you are leveraging, you are using borrowed money to invest. Positive leverage means it increases the return for the borrower. Think of it like this. You borrow money from the bank at 5%, and you put it to work in a business that earns you 10% or 20%. You borrowed money, paid the interest, and still made a profit. That is positive leverage. You used debt correctly, and it produced income beyond the cost of borrowing. Question 83. The possibility of losing part or all of an investment is known as risk. Every investment involves some degree of risk. The possibility of loss is the definition of risk. Question 84. Which of the following statements best describes positive leverage? Exactly what we just explained. The rate of return is higher than the interest rate on the loan. When the return exceeds the cost of borrowing, the leverage is positive. With that, we close Chapter 17 and move into Chapter 18, Property Taxes. This chapter typically represents 3 points on the state exam. Question 85. You must memorize this. Property taxes are paid in arrears, not up front, in arrears. 86. Which of the following is true regarding universities owned by the state of Florida, meaning state institutions? They are immune from property taxes. Important distinction for the exam. Government-owned property is immune. Church property and similar institutions are exempt. None of them pay taxes, but the terminology is different and must be used correctly. 87. What is the maximum percentage that can be charged for a tax certificate? 18%. This must be memorized. Maximum rate? 18%. 88. Until what date do owners of a homesteaded property purchased before January 1st, 2009 have to file for the Florida homestead tax exemption? March 1st, not to be confused with the deadline to pay taxes, which is March 31st. Here they are asking about filing the exemption application. Deadline is March 1st. Question 89. A property pays $1,600 per year in property taxes. If the tax rate is $2.50 per $100, what is the assessed value of the property? For this question, there are 2 formulas you must know and memorize. Taxable value equals assessed value minus total exemptions. Property, taxes equals taxable value multiplied by tax rate divided by 100. Sometimes the division is by 1,000 instead of 100, depending on how the rate is expressed in the question. If the question says per 100, we divide by 100. If it says per 1,000, we divide by 1,000. Here it clearly says per $100, so we divide by 100. Now let's solve it. What information does the question give us? We know the annual taxes are $600, so we write 1,600 equals taxable value by 2.5 divided by 100. We solve for taxable value. Multiply both sides by 100 to get the taxable value, 1,600 by 100. And now move the 2.5 to the other side by dividing. Taxable value equals 1,600 by 100 divided by 2.5. That gives us a result of $64,000. Now we return to the first formula. Taxable value equals the assessed value minus exemptions. Since the question gives no exemptions, the exemptions are 0. So, $64,000 equals assessed value minus 0. Therefore, assessed value equals $64,000. It is not a difficult question, but it is the kind that starts from the answer and makes you work backwards. You are given the final tax amount, and you must reverse engineer the assessed value. Question 90. A sewer repair cost will be $1,987 per home, and the county will pay 35% of the cost. How much will the county pay if there are 667 homes? There is no formula here. This is simple arithmetic. The cost per home is $1,987. The number of homes is 667. So first, we calculate the total cost of the project. 1,987 multiplied by 667 is $1,325,329. Now the question says the county will pay 35% of the total. So we take the total cost and calculate 35% of it, which gives us $463,865.15. That is the county's share. Correct answer, B, $463,865.15. To better understand this concept, imagine a street with just two neighboring homes. The government says it will pay 30% of the public improvement cost. That means the remaining 70% must be covered by the two homeowners. 70% divided between two neighbors is 35% each. So the logic for this type of question is always determine total project cost. Apply the percentage the government pays. Whatever remains is shared among the benefiting owners, usually split evenly. This question is not difficult. You just have to reason through it. If the project cost were 100 and the county pays 30%, then the county pays 30 and 70 remains. With two neighbors, each pays 35. The exact same reasoning applies to the real numbers above. Question 91. Property taxes are assessed based on property taxes are charged on the basis of the assessed value. So the correct answer is the assessed or taxable value of the property. Question 92. What exemption can a person who has been declared legally blind receive? The exemption is $500 of assessed value. You must memorize this. Legally blind individuals receive a $500 assessed value exemption. Question 93. A homeowner has lived in their property for 6 years and pays $862.50 in property taxes. The city tax rate is 25 mils, and the property has both homestead exemptions, $25,000 plus $25,000 plus an additional $500 widow's exemption. What is the assessed value of the property? We must begin with the two formulas. Taxable value equals assessed value minus exemptions, property tax, equals taxable value times millage rate divided by 1,000. Why divided by 1,000? Because the tax rate is in mils, 25 mils. Mill rate is always divided by 1,000. Start with the information we know. Annual property tax paid equals $862.50. So we plug into the property tax formula, $862.50 equals taxable value times 25 divided by 1,000. Since 1,000 is dividing, it moves to the other side multiplying. Taxable value equals 862.50 times 1,000, and we'll move the 25 to the other side dividing. So we get that the taxable value is $34,500. Now we go to the first formula. Taxable value equals assessed value minus exemptions. Exemptions include homestead, $25,000 plus $25,000 plus widow. Exemption 500 total exemptions equals $50,500. Now plug into the formula. 34,500 equals assessed value minus 50,500. The 50,500 moves to the other side, adding assessed value equals 34,500 plus 50,500, and we get $85,000. Next exercise, question 94. The total value of properties in a city is $64,890,000. Government-owned properties total $575,000 and church-owned properties total $346,000. Property exemptions total $950,000. The tax rate is 9 mils. What will be the city's tax revenue? Note here that they give us that information because those properties do not pay taxes, so that value must be subtracted when calculating taxable value. Another category that also reduces taxable value is homestead property. Homestead properties don't necessarily pay zero taxes, but their taxable value is reduced due to exemptions. In this case, total exemptions amount to $950,000. The millage rate is 9 mils. The question is, how much revenue will the city receive? We use the same two formulas as before. Taxable value equals assessed value minus total exemptions. Property taxes equals taxable value times millage rate divided by 1,000. Now plug the values into the first formula. Assessed value, total property value, equals $64,890,000 minus exempt values. Government property, $575,000. Church property, $346,000. Homestead exemptions, $950,000. Add all exemptions, and that results as $1,871,000. Subtract from total property value, $64,890,000 minus $1,871,000 equals $63,019,000. Now apply the tax formula. Property tax equals $63,019,000 times 9 divided by 1,000. We can simplify by canceling the 3 zeros. Correct answer, $567,171. Option B. All right. Now we're into Chapter 15. And Chapter 15 is only worth 1 point on the exam. The question is, what is the real estate market? The answer is heterogeneous, because two properties are never identical. Real estate is unique, therefore the market is heterogeneous. 96. Which of the following is not a physical characteristic of real estate? And here the answer is homogeneity. Real estate properties are not identical. Therefore, the characteristic that does not apply is homogeneity. This closes the chapter. Now, chapter is also worth 1 point on the exam. 19. In a certain location, there was a general store before zoning laws were modified, and the new zoning would not allow that use today. The store would be permitted to remain as a legally non-conforming use. This must be memorized. If a property or business existed before the zoning change, it is allowed to continue operating, but only under its original conditions. No expansion, no reconstruction if destroyed. It may remain only as a legal non-conforming use. Question 98. A company that generates its income from within the community using the local population as its customer base is an example of a service industry. Grocery stores, convenience stores, gas stations, local restaurants all fall under this category because their revenue is generated from the surrounding neighborhood. Question 99. A design intended to guide the overall development of a community is known as master plan. Straightforward. and must be remembered exactly as stated. Question 100. A homeowner wants to build a deck on the west side of the house. The distance between the house and the adjacent property line is 15 feet. If the deck is built, the distance will be reduced to 5 feet. Local zoning requires a minimum setback of 10 feet. What does the owner need in order to legally build the deck? The answer is variance. Important rule to remember. If the question indicates that something already existed prior to zoning changes, the answer will be legal non-conforming use. If the question refers to a new construction that does not meet setback or zoning requirements, the answer will be variance. This closes Chapter 19, which is the last one from this exam review course. Good luck.